I am Alvin, 33 years old, and a marketing executive at Horizon Innovations. After 8 years of dedication and countless late nights, my promotion to senior vice president was finally happening. That morning I arranged 3 empty chairs in the front row of the ceremony hall, placing small reserved signs for my parents and sister Rachel. 2 hours before the event, my phone buzzed a selfie of them boarding a Caribbean cruise ship. I stared at the empty seats as colleagues filtered in with their proud families. The ceremony was about to begin. Before I tell you what happened next, drop a comment letting me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever felt invisible to the people who should care the most. Growing up in suburban Boston, I had what most would call a comfortable middle-class childhood. My father, Michael, was a successful accountant at a prestigious firm downtown. He worked long hours and built a reputation for precision and reliability, traits he expected to see mirrored in his children. When he was home, his conversations revolved around numbers, achievements, and measurable success. Emotional discussions were as foreign to him as financial mistakes. My mother, Karen, taught 4th grade at the local elementary school. She was the eternal peacekeeper, the one who smoothed over awkward family moments with cheerful deflection. Her talent for making everyone feel comfortable often meant avoiding confrontation at all costs. Her warm smile and gentle voice made her beloved by her students. But at home, her need for harmony meant difficult conversations rarely happened. Then there was Rachel, my sister younger by 3 years, and the undisputed star of our family. By age 6, she had shown remarkable talent in ballet, moving across our living room with a grace that drew gasps from relatives. Her recitals became family pilgrimages, unmissable events that anchored our calendar. As Rachel progressed through increasingly prestigious dance schools, our lives became synchronized to her performances, competitions, and training schedules. I still remember sitting in the stands during my Little League championship game at 11 years old, scanning the bleachers between pitches. The empty spot where my parents had promised to sit remained vacant throughout all 9 innings. My team won, and the coach handed me the game ball for my clutch hit in the final inning. I carried it home, eager to show my parents, only to find them helping Rachel prepare for her regional dance competition the next day. "Great job, sport," my father said, without looking up from the sequins he was attaching to her costume. My mother added, "We are so sorry we missed it, but you understand how important tomorrow is for Rachel, right?" I did understand. I always understood. That became my role in the family. The one who understood, who never complained, who adjusted. My high school graduation fell on the same day Rachel received news of her dance scholarship to a prestigious arts academy. What should have been my celebration dinner became an impromptu party for her achievement. Relatives who had sat through my valedictorian speech now raised glasses to Rachel's bright future, while my acceptance to Cornell University was mentioned as an afterthought. Even my college graduation ceremony felt incomplete. My parents attended but left immediately after the diplomas were handed out, rushing to make it back for Rachel's showcase performance that evening. I stood alone in my cap and gown while classmates took family photos, then drove myself to a quiet dinner before heading to my new apartment. These experiences shaped my response to disappointment, silence, hard work, and a determination to prove my worth through achievement. I learned early that external validation from my family was unpredictable, so I built my self-worth on professional accomplishment instead. My career at Horizon Innovations began 8 years ago. I started as an entry-level marketing coordinator, often the first to arrive and last to leave. While my peers attended happy hours, I worked nights and weekends, simultaneously completing my MBA. The company culture was competitive with office politics that required careful navigation, but I found my place through consistent results and strategic thinking. Thomas Grant, the company's COO, noticed my work ethic during my 2nd year. After I successfully salvaged a presentation when the original team lead fell ill, Thomas began mentoring me. He was everything my father was not: attentive, encouraging, and generous with both criticism and praise. Under his guidance, I moved steadily upward: coordinator to specialist, specialist to manager, manager to director. My defining professional moment came 3 years ago. Our largest client was threatening to leave after a competitor underbid us. In a high-pressure meeting, I presented an innovative marketing strategy that not only retained the client, but expanded our contract. That day, Thomas pulled me aside and said, "Alvin, you just saved us $2 million and secured your path to the executive floor." Those words meant more to me than any praise I had ever received. Our family tradition of monthly dinners continued through these years, though the dynamic remained unchanged. Rachel, now principal dancer at an up-and-coming contemporary dance company, dominated conversations with tales of performances and famous choreographers. My parents leaned forward when she spoke, asking detailed questions and hanging on each word. When my turn came to share work, news interruptions were frequent. My promotion to marketing director 3 years ago earned a quick, "that is nice, honey," from my mother before she turned to ask Rachel about an upcoming audition. Last month I shared news of my promotion ceremony at our family dinner. "I have been nominated for senior vice president," I said, during a rare lull in conversation. "The ceremony is on the 15th. It would mean a lot if you could all be there." My father glanced up briefly from cutting his steak. "The 15th. That is a Thursday, right? We will have to check our calendar." My mother nodded vaguely. "We will try to make it, sweetie." "Rachel, did you tell us about that new choreographer from New York?" And just like that, the moment passed, the conversation redirected. I sipped my wine and nodded along to Rachel's enthusiastic description of her latest artistic collaboration, swallowing disappointment with practiced ease. The promotion ceremony was scheduled for Thursday, May 15th, giving me 2 weeks to prepare. Despite my family's lukewarm response, I threw myself into preparations with characteristic thoroughness. This milestone represented 8 years of dedication, and I was determined to mark it properly. I visited 3 different stores before finding the perfect charcoal gray suit, conservative enough for corporate culture, but with subtle blue stitching that added personality. The tailor promised rush alterations, understanding the importance of the occasion. I scheduled a haircut at an upscale salon rather than my usual barbershop, and spent evenings practicing my acceptance speech in front of my bathroom mirror. 3 days before the ceremony, Thomas called me into his office. His corner space overlooked the city skyline, a daily reminder of what dedication could achieve. He closed the door, which was unusual, and gestured for me to sit. "The ceremony is shaping up to be something special," he said, a hint of excitement breaking through his professional demeanor. "Several executives from headquarters will be attending. This is not typical for a senior VP promotion." I raised an eyebrow. "Any particular reason?" Thomas leaned back, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Let us just say your work has attracted attention from the top. Have you sent invitations to your family?" "Yes," I nodded. "Formal invitations, though. I mentioned it at dinner, too." "Good," Thomas said. "These moments are important to share." That same evening, I sent a final reminder email to my parents and Rachel, including details about parking and the reception afterward. The response was a brief, "Got it, we'll check schedules," from my mother. I tried not to read too much into the brevity or lack of enthusiasm. The next morning, 3 days before the ceremony, my phone rang during an early strategy meeting. Seeing my mother's name, I excused myself to answer in the hallway. "Alvin, honey," her voice carried that particular tone I had grown to recognize, the one that preceded disappointment. "I have been meaning to call about Thursday." My stomach tightened as I pressed the phone closer to my ear. "Yes. Something has come up. Something we could not possibly reschedule." The practiced regret in her voice did nothing to soften what came next. Rachel's dance company has been invited to perform on the inaugural voyage of the Royal Caribbean's newest ship. It is an incredible opportunity for her career. Celebrities, arts, patrons, influential directors will all be there. I closed my eyes, leaning against the wall. "And you and Dad are going." They offered family cabins for the performers. She explained, words quickening with enthusiasm despite the circumstances. "It is the opportunity of a lifetime, Alvin. A 5-day Caribbean cruise, all expenses paid. Rachel needs our support. This could lead to international recognition for her work." I said nothing, the silence stretching between us. "We will celebrate your promotion when we get back," she continued, filling the void with promises. "Maybe a nice dinner at that steakhouse you like. We are so proud of you, honey, you know that. It is just that this timing is impossible, and Rachel's career is at such a crucial juncture." I understand, I said, finally, the words automatic after years of practice. Have a good trip. You are not upset, are you? Her voice carried that edge of worry that was not about my feelings, but about having to deal with conflict. No, Mom, it is fine. I need to get back to my meeting. That is my boy. Always so independent and understanding. We will call from the ship. After ending the call, I stood motionless in the hallway, composing myself before returning to the meeting. The familiar ache of disappointment settled in my chest, but I pushed it down, focusing instead on the presentation I needed to finish by noon. That night, alone in my apartment, I found myself opening an old storage box from my closet. Inside were photographs and mementos from childhood through college, tangible reminders of milestones both celebrated and overlooked. A Little League trophy, high school academic awards, my college diploma, all carefully preserved despite their minimal acknowledgement. I poured a glass of scotch and methodically arranged the photos on my coffee table. My 5th grade science fair, where I won first place while my parents attended Rachel's dance camp orientation. My high school graduation, where the professional photos showed 3 empty chairs in the family section. My parents and Rachel had arrived late and left early. My college graduation dinner at a restaurant where I had made reservations for 4 but dined alone. The pattern was undeniable, stretching across 2 decades of my life. Yet somehow I had continued to hope each new achievement might finally be the one to capture their attention. I finished the scotch and called my best friend, Jason. "They are not coming," I said when he answered. Jason's sigh carried through the phone. "The cruise thing Rachel mentioned last week. You knew. She posted about it on Instagram. I assumed they had discussed it with you. Not until today." I began returning the photos to their box. "It is fine. Just another ceremony." "It is not fine, Alvin. And it is not just another ceremony. It is a big deal. Look, I will be there. Front row. I will cheer embarrassingly loud and take unflattering photos." His offer pulled a reluctant smile from me. "You do not have to do that." "Yes, I do. That is what family does, and some family you choose." After hanging up, I made a decision. I would approach the ceremony as purely professional achievement. No more hoping for family validation or approval. My worth would be measured by the respect of colleagues who actually witnessed my work, not by those who consistently chose to be elsewhere. The morning of the ceremony, I dressed with deliberate care. The newly tailored suit fit perfectly. I knotted my tie with precision, the blue silk, complementing the subtle stitching in the suit. Professional, composed, successful. The reflection in the mirror showed a man who had built himself from the ground up. For a moment, I allowed myself to feel proud of that man, regardless of who would or would not be there to witness his achievement. My phone chimed with good luck messages from colleagues and friends. Nothing from my parents or Rachel. They would be boarding the cruise ship about now, I calculated. At the office, I had a final meeting with Thomas before the afternoon ceremony. His experienced eyes missed nothing, taking in my carefully neutral expression. "Everything all right?" he asked as we reviewed the ceremony schedule. "Of course. Just focused on getting through my speech without tripping over words." Thomas studied me for a moment longer. "Your family confirmed they are coming." The brief hesitation before my answer told him everything. Something came up. A cruise opportunity for Rachel's dance company. They send their regrets. Thomas's jaw tightened momentarily. Having met my family at company functions, he understood the dynamic more than most. "Their loss," he said finally. "Today is significant, Alvin. More than you might realize right now." "What does that mean?" He smiled enigmatically. "You will see soon enough. Just know that several people from headquarters are attending specifically for you. Your marketing strategy for the Westfield account got attention at the highest levels." This unexpected information shifted my focus from family absence to professional curiosity. Throughout the morning, I noticed unusual activity: executive assistants from headquarters checking the ceremony space, IT staff testing the presentation system, twice the CEO's private conference with Thomas behind closed doors. By the time I left to change for the ceremony, anticipation had replaced disappointment. Whatever was happening, it was clearly more than a standard promotion announcement. The grand ballroom of the Westin Hotel had been transformed for the ceremony. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over rows of chairs facing a raised stage with the company's logo prominently displayed. Floral arrangements in the company colors adorned each table at the reception area. A photographer circulated, capturing candid moments as employees in formal business attire filed in program booklets in hand. I arrived early, checking details with the event coordinator before guests arrived. In the front row, 3 seats remained empty. Small reserved signs bearing my family's names. As colleagues began arriving with spouses, parents, and even children in tow, I found myself inventing increasingly creative explanations. My parents had a last-minute travel opportunity, I told the marketing director from the West Coast office. My sister's dance company had a breakthrough performance, I explained to the VP of sales. Family emergency. I simplified for others the phrase technically not untrue in my family. Rachel's career opportunities did constitute emergencies that reorganized all other priorities. Each explanation came with a practiced smile and quick subject change. The empty chairs seemed to grow more conspicuous as the room filled a visible reminder of absence among the celebratory atmosphere. Just as the discomfort peaked, Jason arrived dressed in a sharp navy suit I had never seen before. "You clean up surprisingly well," I commented as he approached. "Special occasion calls for new threads." He glanced at the empty seats beside him. "Want me to move the reserved signs?" No one would know. I considered it for a moment, then shook my head. "Leave them. It is what it is." The lights dimmed slightly, signaling the ceremony's start. The company's CEO, Margaret Winters, approached the podium with confident strides. At 62, she commanded attention through presence rather than volume, her silver-streaked hair and tailored suit, embodying corporate success. "Good afternoon," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. "Today we gather to recognize exceptional talent and dedication within our Horizon family." She spoke about the company's growth over the past decade, its values and vision, before transitioning to the reason for the gathering. Few employees exemplify our core principles as thoroughly as today's honoree. Alvin Matthews joined us 8 years ago and has since demonstrated extraordinary commitment, innovative thinking, and leadership potential at every level. Margaret detailed my progression through the company, highlighting specific campaigns and achievements. She mentioned the Westfield account, specifically the client I had saved with an 11th-hour strategy innovation. When others saw only problems, Alvin found opportunities. When deadlines seemed impossible, he made them manageable. His promotion to Senior Vice President of Marketing is not merely the next step in a corporate ladder, but recognition of someone who has become indispensable to our organization's success. From the corner of my eye, I noticed several executives from headquarters nodding in agreement. Thomas, seated near the stage, gave me an encouraging smile. "I invite Alvin Matthews to join me on stage," Margaret concluded. As I stood and made my way forward, I deliberately avoided looking at the empty family seats. Instead, I focused on Jason's encouraging thumbs up, on Thomas's proud expression, on the genuine applause from colleagues who had witnessed my work firsthand. The stage lights were warm as I accepted the engraved Crystal Award and took my place at the podium. Looking out at the audience, I delivered my carefully prepared speech, thanking key mentors and colleagues who had supported my journey. I spoke about the company's trust in my vision and my commitment to innovation. I specifically acknowledged Thomas's guidance, calling him the kind of mentor who sees potential even when you doubt yourself. The speech concluded to enthusiastic applause, with several people rising to their feet. I stepped back, expecting to return to my seat as the ceremony moved toward its reception phase. Instead, Margaret returned to the microphone. "Alvin, please remain with us for a moment. There is another matter to address." Confused, I stayed in place as Margaret continued. "While Alvin's promotion to Senior Vice President is well-deserved, the executive team has unanimously agreed that his talents should be utilized in an even more significant capacity." She turned to face me directly. "Horizon Innovations is expanding its European operations, establishing a new headquarters in London to better serve our international clients." Murmurs rippled through the audience as colleagues processed this unexpected announcement. We need a visionary leader to spearhead this expansion, someone with proven strategic thinking, adaptability, and innovative approach to global markets. Margaret reached for a leather portfolio on the podium. Alvin, the board would like to offer you the position of Executive Director of European Operations effective next month. She handed me the portfolio containing official papers, contract, compensation package, relocation details. The salary figure alone made me blink twice to ensure I was reading it correctly. The position would place me directly under the Chief International Officer, effectively jumping 2 levels in the corporate hierarchy. This role comes with full relocation, support, a significant compensation increase, and the opportunity to build your own team from the ground up. Margaret continued as I reviewed the documents. We believe you are uniquely qualified to establish our European presence with the same excellence you have demonstrated here. The audience erupted in applause, more enthusiastic than before. Looking up, I saw genuine surprise on many faces. This level of promotion for someone my age was unprecedented. Thomas was beaming from the front row, and I suddenly understood his earlier hints in the presence of headquarters executives. After a momentary pause to collect myself, I accepted the offer with a brief, heartfelt statement about the honor of representing Horizon internationally. As the ceremony concluded and guests moved toward the reception area, colleagues surrounded me with congratulations and questions about London. Thomas made his way through the crowd, embracing me with uncharacteristic emotion. You knew, I said, still processing the magnitude of what had just happened. I recommended you, he corrected. 6 months ago, when the European expansion was first discussed, the decision was theirs, but I made sure they considered the right candidate. Thomas, I do not know what to say. Say you will make me proud in London, he replied, squeezing my shoulder. But tonight you celebrate. The reception became a blur of handshakes, business cards from colleagues suddenly interested in visiting London, and champagne toasts. Several executives from headquarters engaged me in detailed conversations about international strategy, treating me as a peer rather than a junior officer. Jason orchestrated an impromptu dinner afterward at my favorite steakhouse, inviting several close colleagues. As plates of perfectly cooked ribeye and glasses of aged bourbon appeared, I finally allowed myself to fully absorb the day's events. The empty family seats seemed less significant now, overshadowed by this unexpected career leap. To London, Jason toasted, raising his glass. And to the family smart enough to be here today. I returned the toast, then silenced my continuously vibrating phone without checking the screen. Whatever was happening in the Caribbean could wait. Tonight belonged to me and the people who had chosen to be present. The next morning I woke to sunlight streaming through my bedroom blinds and the persistent buzz of my phone on the nightstand. My head throbbed slightly from last night's celebration, but clarity returned quickly as I remembered the extraordinary turn my career had taken. Reaching for my phone, I found it dead, unsurprising after silencing it throughout the evening. Once plugged in and powered back on, it exploded with notifications. 27 missed calls, 43 text messages, and 16 voicemails. The majority came from my parents and Rachel, with timestamps beginning around 8 p.m. the previous night. I sat up, scrolling through the texts with increasing confusion. The first from my mother read, "Alvin just saw the news. Call us immediately." Another from my father. "Why did we have to hear about London from the Hendersons?" Rachel's messages escalated from, "Seriously," to, "How could you blindside us like this?" The most recent text from my mother, sent at midnight, simply stated, "We need to talk. This is not something you keep from family." The voicemails carried similar messages of shock and hurt, each one more dramatic than the last. My mother's voice trembled with emotion. "Alvin, we are beside ourselves. Moving to London. An executive position. Why would you keep this from us? We had to hear it from Judith Henderson, who saw it on LinkedIn. Call us as soon as you get this." My father's normally controlled voice sounded uncharacteristically agitated. "Son, this is not how family operates. Major life decisions should be discussed. Call your mother before she drives the cruise staff crazy." Rachel's voicemail was predictably self-referential. "Great timing, Alvin. Mom and Dad can hardly focus on my performance tonight because they are so distracted by your news. Thanks a lot. Scrolling further, I found texts from extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, all expressing surprise about my sudden international move. My cousin Michael wrote London. "Dude, when were you going to mention this?" Awesome news, though. The pieces clicked into place as I opened my email to find a company-wide announcement about my promotion and new role sent shortly after the ceremony concluded. Additionally, the PR department had issued a press release highlighting the European expansion with my appointment featured prominently. The release had been picked up by several business publications, including the Wall Street Journal's online business section. A social media search revealed numerous LinkedIn congratulations and industry chatter about marketing wunderkind Alvin Matthews heading Horizon's ambitious European play. The news had spread far wider and faster than I had anticipated. My family, cruising somewhere in the Caribbean, had apparently learned about my promotion and relocation through the grapevine, rather than from me directly, though their absence from the ceremony was the very reason they had missed the announcement. As I prepared coffee and considered my response, my phone rang again. My mother's name flashed on the screen. I took a deep breath and answered. "Hello, Mom." "Alvin James Matthews." She began using my full name as she had during childhood transgressions. "How could you keep something this important from your family?" "We are absolutely blindsided." I heard my father in the background asking for the phone. "Put him on speaker," he demanded. "You are on speaker now," my mother continued. "Your father and I are trying to enjoy this cruise that is very important for Rachel's career, but we can hardly focus after learning our son is moving across the ocean from a complete stranger." "I did not keep anything from you," I replied calmly. "The London position was offered to me at the promotion ceremony yesterday, the one I invited you to attend 3 weeks ago." A moment of silence followed before my father spoke. "You expect us to believe this was all decided yesterday? These things take planning, Alvin. You must have known for months." "I learned about it yesterday, just like everyone else in the room," I explained, my tone remaining measured despite my rising frustration. "It was a surprise announcement following my senior VP promotion. If you had been there, you would have heard it firsthand." "Well, how were we supposed to know something this important would happen?" my mother interjected. "You only mentioned a standard promotion ceremony." In the background, I heard Rachel's distinctive voice. "Tell him about my performance." My mother continued without missing a beat. And now, Rachel's spotlight moment is completely overshadowed. Her first night performing for the cruise executives was last night. And instead of celebrating her success, everyone at our table was asking about you and London. I pinched the bridge of my nose, fighting a growing headache. "I am sorry Rachel's performance was overshadowed. That was not my intention." "You could have warned us," my father insisted. "Given us some heads up to prepare for questions." Again, I did not know about London until yesterday afternoon. And frankly, I tried to share the original promotion news with you weeks ago, but there was limited interest. The words came out more sharply than intended. "What is that supposed to mean?" my mother asked. "Nothing. Look, I have a lot to organize now. The company needs my decision about London by Monday, and there are relocation details to discuss." Monday. "That is not enough time for a family discussion about something this significant," my mother protested. "I have already accepted the position," I stated firmly. Another shocked silence followed. Without consulting us, my father finally managed. "Yes," I confirmed. "It is my career and my life. I will send you the details once everything is finalized." After ending the call with promises to talk later, I turned my attention to the practicalities of an international move. The company had provided a comprehensive relocation package, including a housing allowance for London's expensive market and assistance selling my current condo. A transition team would help with visa requirements, banking, and other logistical matters. Throughout the day, more calls came in. Colleagues offering congratulations, friends wanting details, and a continuous stream of family members expressing hurt feelings about being kept in the dark. I focused on packing non-essential items and researching London neighborhoods, letting most calls go to voicemail. By evening, my apartment floor was covered with labeled boxes. Jason stopped by with takeout and helped sort through kitchen items while offering practical advice about international moves from his time studying abroad. "Your family still making this about them?" he asked, wrapping glasses in newspaper. According to Rachel's latest text, I have ruined the cruise atmosphere and deliberately upstaged her big break. I sighed, showing him the message. Jason rolled his eyes. Classic Rachel. Remember when she threw a fit at your college graduation dinner because no one was asking about her summer dance intensive? To be fair, they could not ask because they left early for her showcase, I replied with a hint of dark humor. As we continued packing, more messages arrived. By midnight, my phone showed a total of 74 missed calls, the majority from family members whose interest in my life had mysteriously intensified now that it included an impressive international position and salary. The final message that night came from my mother. We need to discuss this in person as soon as we dock. Family decisions require family input. We need to talk. I turned off my phone, suddenly exhausted by the emotional whiplash. Today should have been about celebration and planning my future. Instead, it had become about managing family drama, created by their own absence. The irony was not lost on me. 5 days later, I was deep into London preparations when my doorbell rang unexpectedly. The cruise had docked that morning, and I had successfully avoided most family calls by citing meetings with the relocation team. Opening my door without checking the peephole proved to be a miscalculation. My parents stood in the hallway, faces set in identical expressions of determination. Behind them, Rachel leaned against the wall, sunburned and irritated. None of them smiled. We need to talk, my father announced, pushing past me into the apartment without waiting for an invitation. My mother followed, taking in the packed boxes and emptied shelves with visible distress. Oh, Alvin, you are already packing. This is happening so fast. Rachel entered last, surveying the disarray with performative disapproval. Wow, you really are leaving. I closed the door, mentally adjusting my afternoon plans. I was not expecting visitors. I have a call with the London office in an hour. This cannot wait, my father declared, taking a seat on my couch and gesturing for my mother to join him. Family matters take precedence over business. Rachel perched on an armchair, while I remained standing, maintaining the psychological advantage of height. Would anyone like water? It is about all I have left unpacked. I offered, falling back on ingrained politeness. My mother waved away the offer. Alvin, we are deeply hurt that you would make such a life-altering decision without consulting your family. Moving across the ocean is not like changing apartments across town. The London position is an extraordinary opportunity, I explained calmly. Executive director at 33 is virtually unheard of, especially with international responsibilities. No one is questioning the professional opportunity, my father interjected. What concerns us is the secretive way you handled it. Finding out from the Hendersons was embarrassing and hurtful. I maintained my composed expression. I understand learning about it that way was awkward. However, as I explained on the phone, the position was offered during the ceremony I invited you all to attend. You never said it was going to be anything important, Rachel protested. Just a standard promotion thing. What exactly would have qualified as important enough to attend? I asked, my voice still calm, but with an edge that made my mother shift uncomfortably. That is unfair, Alvin, my father said. We have always supported your career. Something in me quieted a stillness before a storm. The accumulated weight of years of disappointment suddenly crystallized into perfect clarity. I walked to my home office and returned with a small leather-bound planner. Let me show you something, I said, opening to a marked page. This is a record of family events and work milestones for the past 15 years. I started keeping it in high school. I turned the book toward them. Blue entries are times I invited you to something important to me. Red check marks indicate when you actually attended. Green entries show times I adjusted my schedule for Rachel's events. The visual impact was undeniable. Sparse red checks among abundant blue entries and green marks on nearly every page. This is my high school graduation, I continued, pointing to a specific entry. You arrived 20 minutes late and left immediately after the ceremony for Rachel's showcase. My mother's face flushed. That was a crucial performance for her scholarship. This is my college graduation. I continued without acknowledging her interruption. You attended the ceremony but skipped the honors luncheon, where I received my department award. This is my first marketing award dinner 3 years ago. You canceled 2 days before because Rachel had an audition the next morning. I flipped forward. And here is the promotion ceremony invitation I sent 3 weeks ago with the response, "We'll try to make it." The room fell silent as they stared at the meticulous documentation of absences and partial appearances. Rachel looked particularly uncomfortable, her usual confidence wavering. "You kept a record of all this?" my father finally asked, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. I did not initially intend to. It started as a simple calendar, but over time the pattern became impossible to ignore. I closed the book. I stopped expecting you to show up years ago. What surprises me is your shock at being excluded from a decision about my life when you have consistently chosen to be absent from it. My mother's eyes filled with tears. "That is not fair, Alvin. We love you. We have always been proud of you. Love and pride expressed in absence still feel like absence," I replied. "Do you know who was in the front row at my ceremony, Jason? Do you know who helped me practice my acceptance speech? My mentor, Thomas. The people who have actually been present in my life were there for its biggest moment." I retrieved the formal invitation from my desk drawer. I saved this. The ceremony details the reception information. Everything clearly stated. I even marked it "Important Career Milestone" at the top. My mother took it with trembling hands. "We did not realize. That is precisely the problem. You never realized. Not when I made the basketball team in 9th grade and played my first game to empty family seats. Not when I graduated top of my class at Cornell and dined alone afterward. Not when I received industry recognition 3 years ago and had no one to celebrate with." The full weight of my words hung in the air. My father, usually quick with justifications, sat in uncharacteristic silence. My mother dabbed at her eyes. Rachel stared at the floor, her posture no longer performance-ready but collapsed inward. "I do not need your permission or approval to accept this position." I continued, my voice softening slightly. "I needed your presence along the way, but I have learned to succeed without it. The London offer is not a discussion point. It is a decision already made." Alvin, Rachel spoke finally, her voice lacking its usual confidence. "I never realized. I knew Mom and Dad came to my things, but I did not think about what that meant for you." "Of course you did not," I replied without malice. "You were a child receiving the attention children should receive. The responsibility was never yours." I turned to my parents. "But you made choices, consistent choices, about whose achievements mattered more. I stopped competing for attention years ago." My father cleared his throat. "Son, we never intended to make you feel less important. Rachel's activities just seemed more time-sensitive. Your career seemed stable, progressing well without our intervention. Without your attention," I corrected. "There is a difference." My mother stood, suddenly moving toward me with outstretched arms. "We can fix this. We can do better. Maybe you should postpone London until we have had time to." I stepped back, avoiding the embrace. "There is nothing to fix regarding London. My flight leaves in 2 weeks. What needs fixing is much older and deeper than this job offer." Rachel's eyes widened. 2 weeks. That is so soon. The company needs me to start the transition immediately. The London office opens in a month. But what about family holidays? Your birthday? Our monthly dinners, my mother asked, distress evident in her voice. "I imagine we will adjust just as we did when I was present, but overlooked," I responded. "Technology makes distance less relevant these days." My father stood now, his business negotiation face appearing. "Alvin, we acknowledge we may have prioritized differently than you needed. But cutting us off is not the answer. I am not cutting anyone off. I am accepting a phenomenal career opportunity and establishing appropriate boundaries with family who are suddenly interested in my life now that it comes with an impressive title and salary." The bluntness of this statement caused all three to flinch. "That is not fair," Rachel protested. "Isn't it? When I made marketing director, it barely warranted acknowledgement at family dinner. Now that I am Executive Director for European Operations, you interrupt your crews to stage an intervention." My mother began crying in earnest now. "We made mistakes, Alvin. Terrible mistakes. But we love you. Please do not punish us by moving across the world." This move is not punishment. It is opportunity, one I have earned through years of work that happened largely without your notice. I checked my watch. I have that call with London in 15 minutes. I think we should end this conversation for now. "Just like that?" my father asked incredulously. "We are supposed to leave with nothing resolved." "What would resolution look like to you?" I asked genuinely. "My declining the position, delaying it until you are comfortable. Neither of those options honors my needs or accomplishments." No one answered immediately. Finally, Rachel spoke, her voice smaller than I had ever heard it. "I always knew I was the favorite," she admitted. "I just did not think about what that meant for you. I am sorry, Alvin." Her unexpected apology shifted the emotional temperature in the room. My mother collapsed back onto the couch. My father's rigid posture seemed to deflate, and something tight in my chest loosened slightly. "I appreciate that, Rachel," I said quietly. "We should go," my father said, finally helping my mother to her feet. "But this conversation is not over, Alvin. Families work through difficult truths together." I nodded but made no promises. "I will let you know when my departure details are finalized." At the door, my mother turned back, her eyes red, but her voice steadier. "We are proud of you, Alvin. We always have been. We just did a terrible job showing it." After they left, I sat motionless among my half-packed belongings, feeling emotionally drained but strangely lighter. For the first time in my adult life, I had spoken my truth, without cushioning it for others' comfort. Whether it changed anything remained to be seen, but articulating those long-held feelings was its own form of liberation. The day after the family confrontation, I met Thomas for breakfast at our usual cafe near the office. Despite the early hour, his perceptive eyes immediately caught the signs of my emotional exhaustion. "Family fallout?" he asked as the waiter poured our coffee. I nodded, summarizing the previous day's confrontation. Thomas listened without interruption, stirring his coffee methodically. "You finally said what needed saying," he observed when I finished. "That takes courage." "It does not feel like courage. It feels like decades of bottled frustration finally spilling over." Thomas leaned forward. "Let me share something from my own experience. When I was about your age, I had a similar moment of truth with my father. He had been emotionally absent my entire life, critical when present. When I finally confronted him, I expected resolution, apologies, promises to change a Hollywood ending." He paused, his expression thoughtful. "Instead, I got defensiveness, then grudging acknowledgement, then years of awkward attempts at connection. Change did come, but slowly, imperfectly. Real relationships are messy, Alvin. They heal in fits and starts." "So you were saying I should forgive and forget?" I asked, skepticism evident. "Not at all. I am saying set boundaries without closing doors. Your family's recognition of their failure is just the first step in a long process. London gives you physical and emotional space to decide what relationship you want going forward on your terms." His perspective provided a framework that felt manageable, neither immediate reconciliation nor complete estrangement, but a measured reevaluation from a position of strength. That afternoon, I had my first therapy session in years. The corporate relocation package included transition counseling, and I had scheduled an appointment more out of curiosity than conviction. And Dr. Lansing, a forthright woman in her 50s, asked insightful questions about patterns rather than incidents. "What you are describing is a classic family dynamic of neglect disguised as normality," she observed. "Your coping mechanism, achievement as self-validation, served you well professionally, but left emotional needs unaddressed." "I thought I had processed all this years ago," I admitted. "Intellectually, perhaps. But emotionally, the intensity of your reaction suggests otherwise." She made a note in her pad. "The London move represents more than professional advancement. It is a symbolic separation, taking control of your narrative." I had not thought of it that way. Most significant choices serve multiple psychological needs. The question now is how to use this transition to heal rather than simply distance. Over the next week, as London preparations intensified, I maintained minimal contact with my family, brief informational texts rather than emotional discussions. My mother made several attempts at deeper conversation, which I acknowledged but gently deferred. Still processing, I texted. Need space to focus on transition. Jason helped with the practical aspects of moving, spending evenings, helping me sort possessions into ship store or sell categories. During one such session, surrounded by packing materials, he asked the question others had avoided. Are you running away from them? I considered this seriously. Number. If the London offer had come 5 years ago, the answer might be different. But now I am running towards something, not away from anything. Good, he nodded, sealing a box of books. Because running away never works. Trust me. I tried it after my divorce. Your problems just get frequent flyer miles. 10 days before my departure, my father called, his voice uncharacteristically hesitant. Your mother and I have been doing some thinking, he began, and some reading about family dynamics and emotional neglect. He paused awkwardly. We found a family therapist who does video sessions. We thought perhaps after you are settled in London we could try a session, all of us. The offer stunned me momentarily. My father, who considered therapy a wasteful indulgence, suggesting family counseling represented a seismic shift. I would consider that, I replied carefully, after I am settled. That is all we ask, he said, relief evident in his voice. And, Alvin, I have been looking back at your calendar notations. You were right about the pattern. We failed you consistently, not occasionally. This acknowledgement, simple but profound, felt more healing than any elaborate apology could have been. My final week in the States unfolded in a blur of logistics and goodbyes. The company organized a farewell gathering where Thomas presented me with a framed photograph from my first day, a nervous 25-year-old in an ill-fitting suit standing beside the building directory. The contrast with the confident executive I had become was striking. Remember where you started, Thomas said, but never forget how far you have come on your own merits. During my exit interview, CEO Margaret Winters shared something unexpected. You remind me of myself 30 years ago, she said. I also had family who could not celebrate my success. It took me years to realize their limitations were not my failure. Her words stayed with me as I completed my final preparations. The morning before my departure, Rachel texted asking to meet for coffee. Against my better judgment, I agreed. She arrived at the cafe looking different, less polished, more authentic. I had a lot of time to think. After our conversation, she began. I talked to my therapist about it too. You have a therapist. This detail surprised me. For 3 years now. Dancing professionally comes with a lot of pressure and body image issues. She stirred her latte absently. Anyway, I realized I have always defined myself through others' attention. When Mom and Dad focused on me, it felt validating, but also suffocating sometimes. I never considered that, I admitted. Their expectations for me were overwhelming. Every recital, every performance had to be perfect, because they had invested so much. She looked up. I am not excusing how they treated you. It was wrong. But I wanted you to know that being the favorite was not always comfortable. Our conversation continued for nearly 2 hours, uncovering aspects of our shared childhood from vastly different perspectives. We parted with a tentative hug and promises to video chat after my move, the first plans we had ever made as adults without parental orchestration. That night, I spent my last evening in my nearly empty apartment, surrounded by taped boxes and suitcases. The silence felt both melancholy and pregnant with possibility. I was leaving with more questions than answers about my family relationships, but also with a newfound clarity about my own worth separate from their recognition. The next morning at the airport, I expected to depart alone. Jason had said goodbye the previous evening, and Thomas planned to call once I landed in London. As I checked in for my flight, however, I heard familiar voices behind me. My parents stood nervously near the security line with Rachel beside them. They had not mentioned coming, and I had not invited them. "We would not miss this," my mother said, simply. "Not again." The gesture, imperfect but sincere, acknowledged both past failures and possible futures. Our goodbyes were awkward but genuine. No dramatic reconciliation, but a door deliberately left open rather than closed. As the plane lifted off American soil, I watched the landscape recede, neither entirely leaving my past behind nor completely carrying it forward, but transforming it into something I could build upon in a new chapter across the ocean. 6 months into my London assignment, autumn rain tapped against the windows of my Notting Hill flat as I prepared for a video call with my parents. My spacious 2-bedroom apartment overlooked a small park, the trees now brilliant shades of orange and gold. Family photos, both old and new, sat framed on a bookshelf, a deliberate choice rather than obligation. The European division had flourished under my leadership, exceeding quarterly projections by 17%. My team of 12, a mix of British, French, German, and Italian professionals, had gelled quickly around our shared vision. The London business press had featured our expansion twice, calling it the American invasion done right. My phone chimed with a text from Emma, the British marketing director I had hired my second week. "Reports finished for tomorrow's presentation. Dinner still on for Friday." Our professional relationship had gradually evolved into something more personal over shared late nights at the office and weekend explorations of London's hidden gems. Her intelligence, dry humor, and refreshing directness had become increasingly important parts of my new life. I replied affirmatively before opening my laptop for the scheduled family call. My parents appeared on screen, sitting close together on their living room sofa. 6 months of weekly video conversations had eased the initial awkwardness, though certain topics still required careful navigation. "Alvin, how is London treating you?" my mother asked, her smile genuine if slightly anxious. "Rainy today, but good otherwise. We landed the Harrington account yesterday." "That is the luxury hotel chain, right?" my father asked. The fact that he remembered this detail from our previous conversation represented significant progress. "Yes. 37 properties across Europe. It is our biggest client yet." We continued discussing work for several minutes before my mother said, "Rachel arrives tomorrow for her visit. She is so excited to see your new place." Rachel's week-long visit had been planned for months. Her dance company was performing in Paris, and she had arranged extra time to stop in London. 6 months ago, the prospect of hosting her would have filled me with apprehension. Now I found myself genuinely looking forward to showing her my new life. "The guest room is ready," I assured them. "I have tickets for a show at the Royal Ballet she might enjoy." After the call ended, I reflected on the journey of these past months. The early days in London had been painful in unexpected ways. Despite my enthusiasm for the professional opportunity, I found myself processing grief for the family relationships I had never had. Solitary walks through London parks became therapy sessions, with myself examining childhood memories from new angles. The monthly video sessions with Dr. Reynolds, the family therapist, had been challenging but clarifying. Initial sessions were tense, with my parents defensive and Rachel tearful. Progress came not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in small moments of honesty. My father acknowledging his discomfort with emotions, my mother admitting her conflict avoidance had enabled unhealthy patterns. Rachel confronting her complex feelings about being the family favorite. Healing family dysfunction takes time. Dr. Reynolds reminded us in our third session, "The patterns you are addressing formed over decades. They will not resolve in weeks or months." My own individual therapy continued alongside the family sessions. Dr. Lansing helped me recognize how my achievement-based self-worth, while professionally advantageous, created personal blind spots. "You measure your value by accomplishments rather than connections," she observed. London offers a chance to integrate both. Taking her advice, I made conscious efforts to build a life beyond work, joining a local running club, accepting colleagues' invitations to weekend activities, developing friendships outside the office. Emma's entrance into my life accelerated this process, her natural sociability drawing me into authentic London experiences I might otherwise have missed. One rainy Sunday, about 3 months after my arrival, my father called unexpectedly outside our scheduled time. His face appeared on my screen, looking uncharacteristically vulnerable. "I wanted to talk to you alone," he began awkwardly. "About something from my own childhood." Over the next hour, he shared stories I had never heard about his father's emotional cruelty, his mother's passivity, his determination to be different but lacking the tools to succeed. "I thought providing financially and encouraging achievement was enough," he admitted. "I did not know how to give what I never received myself." This conversation marked a turning point in our relationship. Not instant repair, but the beginning of authentic connection, rather than performance-based interaction. My mother followed with her own individual call weeks later, sharing her fears of conflict stemming from her parents' volatile relationship. "I thought keeping peace was the same as creating harmony," she explained tearfully. "I never realized silence could cause as much damage as shouting." Rachel's transformation proved perhaps most surprising. Freed from her role as the family star, she began exploring interests beyond dance, even taking business classes at a local community college. Being the favorite was like being trapped in a beautiful cage, she confided during one of our video chats. "Everyone saw the cage, but not me inside it." During her third therapy session, she had directly addressed me. "I always knew they favored me, and part of me enjoyed it. I am sorry I never stood up for you, or even acknowledged what was happening." Now, preparing for her visit, I realized how much had changed between us. Our recent conversations contained genuine interest in each other's lives, rather than parallel monologues. The competitive undercurrent that had defined our relationship since childhood had largely dissolved, replaced by cautious but growing mutual respect. The doorbell rang, interrupting my reflections. A delivery service arrived with a package from my parents, a housewarming gift they had mentioned. Inside was a custom-made leather-bound album titled Alvin's Achievements, containing photos and mementos they had gathered from relatives, school archives, and their own collections. My elementary school science fair ribbon, high school debate team photo, college graduation program, news clippings of my marketing awards. A note inside read, "We missed too many moments the first time. We are trying to collect what we can to show we are proud of the man you have always been, not just the executive you became. Love, Mom and Dad." The gesture touched me deeply, imperfect but sincere acknowledgement rather than erasure of the past. I placed the album on my coffee table, a visible reminder of both painful history and possible healing. 3 days later, I met Rachel at Heathrow Airport. She rushed toward me with uncharacteristic enthusiasm, her dancer's grace evident even as she navigated the crowded terminal. Our embrace felt genuine rather than obligatory. "London looks good on you," she observed as we claimed her luggage. "You seem different. More settled somehow." "I feel different," I admitted, guiding her toward the underground entrance. Building something from scratch changes your perspective. The week with Rachel proved unexpectedly enjoyable. She met my team, attended a client presentation, joined Emma and me for dinner twice, and explored the city with genuine curiosity. On her final evening over wine in my living room, she broached the subject we had both been avoiding. "Do you think you will ever fully forgive them?" she asked quietly. "Or me?" I considered the question carefully. Forgiveness suggests wiping the slate clean. I do not think that is possible, or even desirable. What happened shaped us both. But I am working toward acceptance, understanding why things happened, without letting it determine my future happiness. "That is remarkably healthy," she replied with a slight smile. "Therapy helps," I shrugged. "So does distance, literal and figurative." "Are you happier here?" "Truly." The question deserved honest reflection. "I am more authentically myself here. The professional opportunity is extraordinary, but the personal growth has been the real revelation. Building a life based on my choices rather than reactions to family dynamics feels like freedom." The next morning, I saw Rachel off at the airport. Our goodbye was warm, with promises to meet in New York when her company toured there in the spring. 2 weeks later, my parents arrived for their first visit, a milestone we had planned carefully through therapy sessions. Their 10-day stay revealed new dimensions to our evolving relationship. My father, seeing me in my professional element during an office tour, displayed genuine pride without competitive comparison. My mother, initially anxious about getting in the way, gradually relaxed into enjoying London's museums and parks. The most meaningful moment came unexpectedly. After introducing them to Emma at dinner, we returned to my apartment for coffee. My father, looking around at the life I had built, said simply, "You did this on your own merit, Alvin. Not because of us, maybe even despite us. I want you to know, I see that now." My mother added, "We miss so much by focusing on the wrong things. But we are learning to see you clearly now, the wonderful man you have always been." Their words, unforced and sincere, acknowledged both past failures and present growth. No dramatic reconciliation, no instant healing, but genuine steps toward a healthier relationship. Later that evening, after they had returned to their hotel, Emma and I walked along the Thames, the city lights reflecting on the water. "They are trying," she observed. "That counts for something." "It does," I agreed. "Not everything, but something important." "And you? What has this journey taught you?" I considered her question, watching a boat glide beneath Tower Bridge. That self-worth cannot come from external validation. Not from family. Not even from professional success. That boundaries are necessary for authentic relationships. That forgiveness does not require forgetting. I paused, finding the words for the most important lesson. And that, family, is partly what you are born into, but also what you choose to build. Some relationships heal with time and effort. Others remain limited. The key is creating your own definition of connection, rather than accepting someone else's. Looking out over the river that had witnessed centuries of human stories, I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for decades. Not because all wounds were healed or all relationships perfected, but because I had finally stopped measuring my worth through others' recognition. The empty chairs at that ceremony 6 months ago had led not to an ending, but to an unexpected beginning. One where I defined success not by who witnessed my achievements, but by how authentically I lived each day. Have you ever had to create healthy boundaries with family members who failed to recognize your worth? Drop a comment below sharing your experience, what worked, what did not, and how you found your own path forward. Your story might help someone else who feels invisible right now. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories of resilience, and share with someone who might need this message today. Remember, sometimes the greatest gift we can give ourselves is the courage to build a life based on our own values, rather than others' expectations. Thank you for listening, and I wish you strength on your own journey of self-discovery.